My fiancé announced, "I've added my ex to the wedding list. If you really care, you won't object." I only smiled. All right. What she didn't know was that I had already invited his wife as my date. That rehearsal dinner turned into a story people still whisper about. I'm Daniel, 29, and I'm writing this from my brother's couch 3 weeks after what was supposed to be my wedding day. I still have the tuxedo hanging in his guest room closet, tags still on. $800 for a suit I wore for exactly 45 minutes before everything went nuclear. I met Rachel 4 years ago at a mutual friend's birthday party. She was a pediatric nurse, kind to everyone, had this laugh that made you want to keep talking just to hear it again. We got engaged last October after I proposed at the beach where we had our first date. The wedding was set for June 15th. Everything was planned, deposits paid, invitations sent. I thought I knew exactly who I was marrying. I was wrong. It started in April. We were at her apartment going over the final guest list. I was on the couch with my laptop. She was cross-legged on the floor with a bunch of spreadsheets that honestly looked more complicated than they needed to be. "So my final count is 97, I said. "How many do you have?" 103, she said, not looking up. "But I'm adding one more." "Okay, who?" "Tyler." I stopped typing. Tyler. Her ex-boyfriend from college. The guy she dated for 3 years before they broke up right after graduation. The guy whose name came up way too often in casual conversation for my comfort. But I'd always brushed it off as just being part of her history. "Your ex Tyler?" I asked carefully. "Yeah. We've been talking lately and he reached out about the wedding. He's happy for us and wants to celebrate with me. I think it would be nice." "Rachel, that's kind of weird, don't you think?" She finally looked up. "Why is it weird?" "He's part of my past. We're friends now. Mature adults can be friends with their exes. I'm not saying they can't, but inviting him to our wedding feels like crossing a line." "What line?" "Daniel, if you really cared about me, you wouldn't object to this. You'd understand that my friendships are important to me." There it was. The classic manipulation wrapped in reasonable-sounding words. If I objected, I was the insecure boyfriend. If I didn't care enough, I was the problem. "How long have you been talking to him?" I asked. "A few weeks. He messaged me on Instagram congratulating us. We just caught up." "And you didn't mention this to me?" "It didn't seem important. We were just chatting." I sat there trying to figure out if I was overreacting. Maybe I was being insecure. Maybe this was normal and I was the weird one for feeling uncomfortable. "Fine," I said. "Invite him." "Really?" She seemed surprised. "Yeah, if it's important to you." She got up and hugged me. "Thank you, babe. This means a lot. See? This is why I love you. You're so understanding." I nodded and went back to my laptop. But something felt off. The way she'd said, "We've been talking lately," like it was casual, but she'd never mentioned it once. The way she'd immediately jumped to questioning whether I cared about her when I hesitated. That night, I did something I'm not proud of. I looked up Tyler on social media, found him pretty easily. Tyler Morrison, 30, working in pharmaceutical sales in Portland, married. His wife's name was Amy, and from the looks of their photos, they'd been married about 2 years. They had a golden retriever and did a lot of hiking. Here's the thing. If Tyler was married and just being friendly, why would Rachel make such a big deal about inviting him? Why would she frame it as a test of whether I cared about her? I sat on this information for 2 days. Then I called my sister Kate, who's basically my moral compass for situations like this. "She's testing you," Kate said immediately. "She wants to see if you'll fight for her or if you'll just roll over." But what if I'm reading too much into this? Daniel, listen to your gut. When has your gut ever been wrong about her? My gut had been right before. 6 months into dating, my gut told me she was still texting her ex. She was. A year in, my gut said she was lying about a work trip. Turned out she'd gone to a concert with some guy from the hospital. Each time I'd ignored it because I loved her and wanted to believe the best. What should I do? I asked Kate. I have an idea, but you might think it's petty. Tell me anyway. Update 1. Kate's idea was simple but brilliant. If Rachel could invite her ex to our wedding, I could invite his wife, as my +1, to the rehearsal dinner. It took me a week to work up the courage. I created a fake Instagram account and messaged Amy Morrison. I kept it straightforward. Hi Amy, you don't know me, but my name is Daniel Chen. I'm getting married next month, and my fiancé recently invited your husband Tyler to our wedding. I didn't realize they'd been back in contact until she added him to the guest list. I wanted to reach out to you directly because I believe in transparency. Would you be willing to talk on the phone? She responded within an hour. What the hell are you talking about? We talked that night. Amy had no idea Tyler had been messaging Rachel. She'd never heard Rachel's name. Tyler had told her he was going to a work buddy's wedding in June, and she hadn't thought twice about it. He told me it was someone from his sales team, Amy said. Her voice was shaking. He said it was in Eugene and he'd drive down for the day. It's in Portland, at the Sentinel Hotel. Jesus Christ. We talked for an hour. Amy was a middle school science teacher, sharp and direct. She wasn't hysterical, just coldly angry. By the end of the conversation, we had a plan. I'll come to your rehearsal dinner, she said, as your guest, and we'll see what happens when Tyler sees me there. Are you sure? I asked. Oh, I'm sure. If my husband is sneaking around to attend his ex-girlfriend's wedding, I want to know why, and I want him to know that I know. I sent Amy the rehearsal dinner details. It was scheduled for June 14th at a restaurant downtown, just family and wedding party. 40 people total. Rachel had insisted Tyler come to the dinner too, even though he wasn't in the wedding party. He'll feel left out otherwise, she'd said. Plus, I want him to meet everyone. The red flags were now basically on fire, but I kept my mouth shut and played along. The week before the wedding, Rachel was stressed about details. Flowers, seating charts, last-minute RSVPs. I was calm, suspiciously calm. She even commented on it. You're being so chill about everything, she said one night. Most grooms are freaking out by now. I just trust that everything will work out how it's supposed to, I said. She smiled and kissed me. See? This is why we're perfect together. Update 2. Rehearsal dinner night arrived. June 14th, 6:30 p.m. I got there early with my family. My parents, my brother Marcus, Kate, and her husband. Rachel arrived with her parents and her sister. Everyone was in good spirits, taking photos, hugging, being excited. Tyler showed up at 7 p.m. I recognized him from his photos. Tall, athletic build, perfect teeth. The kind of guy who probably peaked in college and was still riding that confidence. He walked in, wearing a navy blazer and khakis, carrying a bottle of wine. Rachel's face lit up when she saw him. She actually squealed and ran over to hug him. The hug lasted about 3 seconds too long. I watched her dad's expression shift from confusion to something harder. Everyone, this is Tyler, Rachel announced. We went to college together. Tyler, this is, well, everyone. Tyler shook hands around the room. When he got to me, his grip was firm, eye contact steady. Congratulations, man. Rachel's an amazing woman. You're lucky. I know, I said, smiling. Thanks for coming. Rachel seated Tyler near her end of the table. I was at the head with her, but Tyler was only 3 seats away, close enough for conversation. Amy arrived at 7:20 p.m. I'd been watching the door. When she walked in, I stood up immediately and went to greet her. She was prettier in person, dark hair, professional demeanor, wearing a simple black dress. She looked like she was going into battle, which I guess she was. Amy, thanks for coming, I said, loud enough for nearby people to hear. Everyone, this is my friend Amy. We met through a mutual connection and I wanted her to be here tonight. Kate caught my eye from across the room. She knew. She gave me the smallest nod. Tyler hadn't looked up yet. He was laughing at something Rachel's sister had said. Amy and I walked toward the table. I'd saved her a seat next to Kate, which put her directly across from Tyler. That's when he saw her. I watched the color drain from his face. Literally watched it happen. His mouth opened slightly. Amy sat down, smiled pleasantly at everyone, and said hello. Rachel was oblivious. She was too busy talking to her mom about the flower arrangements. Tyler stood up abruptly. I need to... bathroom. You okay, man? I asked innocently. Yeah, just be right back. He practically ran out of the dining room. Amy excused herself 30 seconds later. Kate went with her. They were gone for 10 minutes. When they came back, Tyler's face was red, and Amy looked completely composed. They sat back down without a word. Rachel finally noticed something was off. Tyler, you okay? You look weird. I'm fine, he said quietly. Do you two know each other? Rachel asked, looking between Tyler and Amy. Amy smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. Oh yes, Tyler's my husband. The table went silent, like every conversation just stopped. Rachel's face went through about 5 different expressions in 3 seconds. Wait, what? I'm Amy Morrison, Tyler's wife. We've been married for 2 years. Amy's voice was calm, almost cheerful. Daniel invited me here tonight as his guest. Small world, right? Rachel looked at me. I sipped my water. You knew? Rachel's voice was barely above a whisper. I found out when I looked Tyler up after you insisted on inviting him. Saw he was married. Thought it would be nice for Amy to join us since her husband was coming to celebrate our wedding. This is insane, Rachel said. She turned to Tyler. You told me you were divorced. Oh, this was even better than I'd hoped. You told her you were divorced? Amy's voice got sharp. When did you tell her that? Tyler looked like he wanted to dissolve into the floor. Amy, I can explain. Explain what? That you've been messaging your ex-girlfriend for months? That you lied to me about whose wedding this was? That you told her you were divorced? Amy stood up. You know what? I don't need to hear this here. We're leaving. Amy, please. Now, Tyler. They left. Tyler didn't even look back at Rachel. The table was still silent. Rachel's mom was staring at her daughter. Her dad looked furious. Rachel, her dad said slowly. What the hell was that? I didn't know he was lying, Rachel stammered. He said he was divorced. He said he wanted to reconnect as friends. For months? I said. You've been talking to him for months and you described it as a few weeks of casual catching up. Daniel, I can explain. Were you planning to leave me? I asked. The question surprised even me, but I needed to know. She didn't answer immediately. That told me everything. I don't know, she finally said. I've been confused. Tyler and we had something special. When he reached out, it brought up old feelings, but I thought he was available. You thought you could have him back, I finished. And you invited him to our wedding to see if there was still something there. You were keeping me as backup. That's not fair. Isn't it? I stood up. You manipulated me into accepting this. You made it about whether I cared about you. You guilted me into letting you bring the guy you were emotionally cheating with to our wedding. My mom put her hand on my arm. Daniel, honey, I'm done, I said. Rachel, the wedding's off. Keep the dress, keep the deposits, keep whatever you want. I'm out. I walked out of that restaurant and didn't look back. Update 3. The next 48 hours were chaos. Rachel called me 37 times. I know because I counted before I blocked her number. Her mom called. Her sister called. Even Tyler called once, which was bold considering his own marriage was imploding. I stayed at Marcus's place. Kate came over the next morning with coffee and bagels. That was the most savage thing I've ever seen you do, she said, grinning. I'm proud of you. I feel like I should feel worse than I do, I admitted. Why? She was using you as a safety net while she chased her ex. You just exposed the truth. My mom called that afternoon. Daniel, Rachel's mother wants to know if there's any way to salvage this. They've lost so much money on deposits. That's not my problem anymore, Mom. I know, honey. I'm just passing along the message. For what it's worth, your father and I support your decision. What she did was unforgivable. I found out through Kate's friend, who knew someone at Rachel's hospital, that Tyler and Amy were getting divorced. Apparently, Amy had found months of messages between Tyler and Rachel. Nothing explicitly physical, but emotional affair written all over it. Rachel had been telling Tyler she made a mistake letting him go. Tyler had been telling her he'd made a mistake marrying someone else. Rachel tried to show up at my apartment 2 weeks after the rehearsal dinner. I wasn't there. I'd essentially moved into Marcus's place. She left a letter taped to my door. I read it once and threw it away. It was 5 pages of justifications and explanations, and I never meant to hurt you. But here's the thing, she did mean to hurt me. Maybe not consciously, but she'd been willing to risk our entire relationship to see if she could get Tyler back. She'd been willing to humiliate me by bringing him to our wedding. She'd just assumed I'd never find out the truth. Final update. It's been 3 weeks. I'm doing okay. Better than okay on some days. My company gave me 2 weeks off, which helped. I've been hiking a lot, trying to clear my head. Amy texted me last week. Thank you for inviting me. You saved me from years of being married to a liar. My lawyer says the divorce should be final by August. I told her I was sorry everything went down the way it did. She said she wasn't sorry at all. Better to know now than find out 5 years and 2 kids from now. Rachel got let go from her job. Not because of the wedding drama, but because apparently her performance had been slipping for months. She'd been distracted. I wonder why. I heard she moved back in with her parents. Tyler moved to Seattle, probably trying to start over where nobody knows his story. The worst part? We'd sent out 200 invitations. The wedding website is still up because I don't have the login to take it down. People still occasionally text me asking what happened. I've started just saying irreconcilable differences and leaving it at that. Kate wants to set me up with one of her co-workers. I told her I need at least 6 months before I even think about dating again. Maybe a year. Maybe forever. The tuxedo is still hanging in Marcus's guest room. I should return it, get the $800 back. But part of me wants to keep it as a reminder. Not of what I lost, but of what I dodged. Edit 1. A lot of people are asking if I feel bad about how public the confrontation was. Honestly? Number. She made it public by insisting Tyler come to the rehearsal dinner. If she'd just invited him to the wedding, it would have been easier to ignore. But she wanted him there with our families, in an intimate setting. She created the stage for her own humiliation. Edit 2. Someone asked what happened to the deposits. Rachel's family lost about $15,000 between the venue, caterer, and flowers. My family lost about $8,000 on the rehearsal dinner and my side of the guest expenses. It sucks, but it's cheaper than a divorce. Edit 3. Yes, I'm sure I made the right call. The moment she couldn't answer whether she was planning to leave me, I knew. You don't hesitate on that question if you're fully committed to someone. You just don't.